Hi there. Welcome to this episode of Invest in Your Marriage. And this episode, we're going to be talking about gratitude and how gratitude affects the way we think and it affects our brains. And it certainly has a deep effect and impact on our relationship. So, when you process all of the things that make you upset about your spouse, you can sit down and just list it out in your head like, oh, I can't stand it when they do this, they leave the socks on the floor, they chew so loud, or they spend too much money, or they don't help around the house, or they nag me all the time about X, Y, and Z, or they don't take care of themselves, or they expect me to do more. Like, you can think through all kinds of things that you find frustrating about the person you are tethered to in marriage, your spouse. So when we do that, it actually has a really negative effect on our brains, and it becomes second nature for us to start doing that rather than for us to be thinking in the ways of gratitude and gratefulness and appreciativeness. So this particular episode is kind of an assignment. I'm going to give you some questions and some things that I want you to write down about your spouse to encourage and to increase this kind of spirit and heart of gratefulness, really thinking about what you like and appreciate about your spouse. And then after you write it down, you can share it with them. You can share this video with them and ask them to do the same. And then y'all have a little date night on the patio and share with each other what you've written down. So this first one is list 3 things. Make a list of 3 things that you really appreciate about your partner. This can be things that they do, things that just the ways that they are, but things that you appreciate about your partner. The next one is to write down something that your partner regularly does that is a big help for you. So my husband often is the one in the house that makes the coffee, and that is such a huge blessing to me. It's something that he does, and he does it very regularly, and when he doesn't do it, I'm like, are you not going to make coffee? It's not that I don't know how to make coffee. I do know how to make coffee, but it's just a blessing, and it helps me that he does that. So write down something that your partner regularly does for you that helps you. What is one of the things that you really like about how your partner looks or acts? I know that one sounds kind of strange, but oftentimes for those of us who have a love language need of words of affirmation, we really want that affirmation from our spouse. And so sometimes when that's not our spouse's love language, it can be difficult for them to remember to tell us some things they like about the way we look or the way we act. So you're going to do the one to lead out on this, and you write down something about the way your partner looks or acts that you like about them. So I find my husband very attractive, and I like his arms, and I tell him that frequently. There's certain shirts that he wears that just kind of cut into his muscle just right, and I find that very attractive, and I tell him that. So think about what it is, something about what your spouse acts, how they act or how they look that you want to affirm in them, and write that down. This next one is to think of something that other people appreciate about your spouse. Like you've seen them affirm him or her, you've seen them compliment him or her, and it makes you feel proud of them. So my husband's a singer, and he really blesses people with the gift that God has given him in the ways that he leads worship. And he's also a strong leader. And when I see other people affirming that in him, like, it makes me want to let him know, like, other people recognize you as a great leader, and so do I. And I appreciate that about your gifts. So that's how I would write that down. So this last one is to write down something about your spouse's character that you admire, their character. So it's not always about how we look or things that we do for other people, but the deep down parts of, like, this is a part of who I am. I want to know that my spouse really sees some of those things and appreciates some of those things. So think about something about your spouse, about their character that you appreciate about them, and write it down. All right. So again, this exercise that I'm assigning to you guys is to help increase gratitude in your mind. And the neuroscience of this is you actually will release happy hormones, dopamine, and another one. Like you're actually going to release some of these hormones in your brain that bring you joy when you start thinking with a grateful heart about your spouse. So this exercise should really make you feel good after you're done. And I know that it's going to be a blessing and make your spouse feel good as well. So when you think with a grateful heart, or when somebody has been thinking gratefully about you, it really does good things in our hearts and as well in our minds. So glad you guys joined me for this episode of Invest in Your Marriage.